Well, hi, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is I'm the one and only Piglet here, and I'm from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. Once again, I am back, and yeah, today, welcome back for more of Let's Play of Sonic Advance 2 for the Game Boy Advance. So last time we have basically just went through Leaf Forest as Sonic, and also we managed to save Cream the Rabbit, and also we managed to went into Heart's Crater as Cream the Rabbit, and also we went into Music Plant Zone as Sonic. Because of that though, we actually rescued Tails. And along the way, we did manage to collect about 3 Chaos Emeralds so far, meaning about the fact that I have to do some of those Chaos Emerald runs off screen for certain characters I know. So, because of that though, it might be a bit time consuming whenever you're trying to able to do this kind of process. So, yeah, today for this episode is the fact that we're about to be moving on to the 4th zone in this game, and as you can see on screen, I'm going to be playing as Tails in this particular zone. And because of this though, the 4th zone in this game, which appears to be, once again, we're going back into the icy themed kind of zone, ever since in Ice Mountain Zone from Sonic Advance 1, but except this time it's called Ice Paradise, which I will say, I actually really do love this particular environment. It's almost like a Christmassy vibe to it, which, you know, to be expected because of how the fact that Christmas is getting close. So, but either way though, and despite the fact that we've only got about, a word classified for saying, 15 days left, so hopefully we can able to actually just, well, be hyped about this, as long as if, this year goes all pretty bare bones as you can get. So anyways though, because of this though, today's day is of course the 10th of December, sorry, of 2020. So because of that though, not much else I would like to mention, although apart from the fact that there's one particular element I forgot to mention to you guys about something, which we'll point it out whenever we get into that particular specific tips and tricks whenever we're able to actually get onto the later zones, because for now, as you can tell, we're going to be playing as Tails in specifically Ice Paradise Zone. So because of this though, and much like how it does in Sonic Advance, that he can still able to actually fly for a certain amount of time, and this makes getting these special stage rings really easier, where in addition with Cream the Rabbit, even though despite the fact that Cream the Rabbit can easily get tired if she managed to able to fly for too long. Usually Tails can usually do the same treatment as Cream the Rabbit, except the fact that he can able to actually fly slightly longer than Cream the Rabbit does. And one thing I should probably mention about this as well is the fact that every single character does have its melee attacks, much like the forms of how it does it in specifically in Sonic Advance 1. So, for instance, that Sonic can perform a somersault and, well, usually a somersault, mind you. And also, same applies for Tails' whip, for, you know, Tails' swoop attack for Tails. And as far as Cream the Rabbit, as you guys should know, that G's can able to not only defeat enemies, but also designates boss fights as well. So, because of that, though, and whenever we get onto Knuckles though, on the other hand though, well, we'll point things out whenever we get into it. So either way though, I suppose another thing I should probably explain about this as well is the fact that usually when it comes to special stages in Sonic Advance 2, I'm not exactly an expert at it, but at least I'm good enough as it is. Although then again, in order to able to actually get the Chaos Emerald proper, that you have to get a lot of reactions to, you know, ring chain reactions, because otherwise, if you manage to get a low amount of rings, and sometimes, I swear to God, is the fact that whenever I manage to play this on my own time, on, specifically whenever I did manage to able to collect those Chaos Emeralds off-screen, between Sonic and Cream, and eventually the next character, which I will point things out whenever we get into it, I swear to God, I always off by one ring to able to actually just lost by it, and because of that though, I have to utilize the save states, and because of that though, because, relatively speaking, I just don't feel like trying to be bothered to able to actually just, well, back in the old days, that, whenever I do manage to lose a special stage, this means I'm gonna have to find those special stage rings again, which makes everything else a little bit tedious on the original cartridge version of the game. Although, to be fair though, I did manage to able to complete that game well, Sonic Advance 2 as a matter of fact, ever since in, I want to say in 2009 if possible, which even then though, that might be sounds a little bit 6 years later, but hey, at least it's something, alright? So yeah, there's gonna be plenty of times about the fact that sometimes I keep on missing those rings most of the time, and luckily for me, if you couldn't tell from that particular footage all by itself, thankfully there's still some more 5 rings left, or in this case 5 rings to be laid around, and luckily for me I managed to catch up into that certain amount, even though Special Stage 4 can be a bit tricky sometimes, especially with the actual rings placement here and there. But I'm sure enough you get that just fine, especially with the actual chain reactions every now and then, so you know, you get the idea. Plus, I really love this music too. Even I remember back in the order. First off, if you press the up button, this is the up animation for Tails. Tails, don't go to sleep. You're supposed to be running fast. Well, anyway, because I remember back in the day, there was actually a Flash game called Ultimate Sonic Flash. That's basically, that particular game involves around inspired by Sonic Advance 2, which only contains 2 zones on that Flash game, which only contains Leaf Forest as well as Ice Paradise, and it also has the exact same amount of characters as in Sonic Advance 2, like Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Cream the Rabbit essentially. But there are 2 unlockable characters you can able to unlock by not only for in terms of conditions, but also you can also manage to do some sort of a cheat codes. Like there are Amy Rose and Shadow the Hedgehog, which is kind of weird able to have Shadow the Hedgehog on Sonic Advance 2 inspired Flash game as a matter of fact, which I found is actually pretty satisfying, I have to say. Even though we would love to able to actually tackle for that game at some point, but unfortunately at this point, it's the fact that the actual Flash player will able to actually discontinue until by the end of the year, which makes me wonder about the fact that I'm gonna be pretty sad on it actually, because, well, usually relatively speaking, recently I managed to able to download the Super Smash Flash EXE or something like that, and also same applies to Super Smash Flash 2 recently, and I've actually really enjoyed those 2 games as in based off from Super Smash Bros. Series. But then after a while though is the fact that that particular Flash message saying about the fact that the actual Flash player will no longer support it until December 2020, which in this case by the end of the year actually, which I'm really gonna able to actually miss that actually, because, well, and also fondly remembered is of course playing Super Mario 63, which almost inspires by Super Mario 64 but on a 2D perspective, and also has the exact same amount of features as in not only Super Mario 64, but also some elements of Super Mario Sunshine, as well as Super Mario Galaxy, which you know what I mean because of that particular, you know, the floods and all that stuff, as well as the launch stars in particular. So, but either way though, you probably get the idea of how unique that Flash game can be for. So because of that though, yeah, it's kind of sad about the fact that we will gonna miss out on that. You know what I mean. And now we come to the 4th boss fight in terms of Sonic Advance 2, and this boss fight can be kind of annoying, especially noticeable. You need to get in right enough speed, although it's not too bad at the same time. But ultimately speaking though, is the fact that the only nitpicking I have with this boss fight is that I swear these dynamite bombs just keeps on interrupting your progress. And in order to able to actually deal the damage on the machine is called Arrow Egg, which that might be seems a little bit weird for able to noticing that name. And basically all you have to do here is the fact that we need to use that particular platform, as you can see right there, and you always have to jump onto it when it's flat, because when it goes like this, as you can see on screen for Eggman symbol, you can't jump on it because you have to wait until when it's like going a bit flatter every now and then. But then again though, the only problem I have with this fight is the fact that those dynamite bombs can able to actually interrupt your progress. But as soon as you get enough hits on him, usually 8 hits, that's what normally how most Eggman fights usually can be, soon enough you're able to actually beat him no problem. So, how's that for that one? And now we're switching back over to Sonic off screen, as you can see. And because of that though, here we go on to the 5th zone, which appears to be Sky Canyon, which usually takes place on a floating island, which kind of reminds me of similar vibe as the new forms of Angel Island zone from Sonic Advance 1. Like, usually you get the idea, there's gonna be a lot of bottomless pits, and also there's gonna be some tricky platforming every now and then. And also some of these springs over there kind of reminds me of those clouds from Angel Island zone. And I will have to be honest for this point, guys, I actually think that this zone is one of my least favorite zones in this game. It's nothing bad or anything, I actually kind of like the actual layout of the actual world itself, but the problem I have with this though is that this level is going to be filled to the brim with bottomless pits. Because that's what I mean when it comes to the forms of Sonic Advance 2, it's become like the bottomless pit every game compared to the forms of how it does it in some ending portions in Sonic Advance 1, and even the worst level designs in Sonic Advance 3, that again, we'll point that out for that game until at some point next year, mind you. So, but either way though, yeah, because of this though, although I don't mind the music, it's just that, while the actual levels is going to be filled to the brim with those bottomless pits all the time, which to be expected with most other zones later on, specifically the 6th zone, and especially noticeable with the 7th zone, as a matter of fact. I mean, that's what dims are actually for, like, they always try to have some, like, some levels, like, filled to the brim with those, not only, booby traps, but also, you know, bottomless pit heavy, as well as, you know, filled to the brim with springs, and speed boosters, and all that jazz, so... Anyway, so let's go ahead and just use those little springs to able to go to the alternative path. So, yeah, because that's the thing as well, is the fact that sometimes we always have to double check on different sections throughout the zone itself, or to be more specifically in Act 1, mind you. So, either way though, that's all I can really think about it, so... And also, as far as you notice something, is the fact that Sonic does manage to have himself the actual returning ability ever since in Sonic Adventure 2, which appears to be the actual Balance Bracelet, or to be more specifically, well, some people usually call it a Balance Bracelet because it looks very similar to the Balance Bracelet ability from Sonic Adventure 2, but honestly, I rarely use it that much. Probably it's because of how the fact that, well, I'm pretty much used to with the actual speeding gameplay and stuff like that. Or perhaps even maybe it's because of how the fact that maybe I didn't actually look upon certain guides on certain secrets every now and then, so... But that's how it goes for me. So anyways though, looks like we've only got about one more special stage ring left, so but either way though. And yes, if you probably guys are wondering about the fact that whatever happened to your extra life count, if you're probably wondering, and also same applies to my score count as well. Much like the forms of Sonic Advance 1, even though Sonic Advance 1 doesn't have a score system, but usually that for my lives counter is the fact that, well, much like in Sonic Advance 1, basically my lives storage has been reset back to 2, or in this case 3, mind you, because much like in the Sonic Advance 1, that if you manage to get your lives counter into 0, you still got one chance left. So, just want to point that out. And now we're on to the 5th special stage, as you can see right here. So, but either way though, as to be expected, much like the forms of Sonic Advance 1, I think it's going to be the exact same colors in that particular order as in Sonic Advance 1, and that could be also the same applies to Sonic Advance 3 as well. And also to top it off is Sonic Rush and Sonic Rush Adventure as well. So you probably expected by that point, whenever when Dims always attempt to able to put up with the exact same color order of Chaos Emeralds wise. Even though, mind you, compared to the forms of any other Sonic games, that sometimes those different colored Chaos Emeralds manage to able to go into the different order, which I have no idea why I just managed to able to mentioning about that stuff though, just because, well, then again though, there's not much else I can honestly try to talk about. Well, usually relatively speaking, is the fact that, oh yeah, because of that though, today, that since this is the 10th of December today, the Game Awards is about to be hosting tonight, so but even then though, at least specifically in America, well, at least I'm really looking forward to see how some of these new stuff they're able to actually include during the forms of the Game Awards 2020, despite the fact that, well, it's going to be live streamed in online services, because unlike in the last year, or should I say the disappointing last year's Games Awards, aside from a few good things, like for instance No More Heroes 3, as well as you know, Bravely Default 2, which I'm probably still not going to get those, mind you, because of I'm more into the forms of Mario and Sonic and all that stuff, but that's just me. But either way though, that's usually back in last year, that is usually covers in by the forms of specifically whatever they did manage to able to show it physically while the actual camera itself was on live. But even then though, yeah, that's as far as I can say about it. So either way though, we'll get into more details about any further details, because I think Sky Canyon Act 2 has the worst design level in the game. Because right off the bat, this is little loop-to-loop thing. Whenever you're able, I'll point an example if we get into it. Like if you curl into a ball, if you manage to get onto that loop-to-loop, you go way too far. And this is the loop-to-loop. If you go curl into a ball, and if you manage to hop onto the wall, and that's a bottomless pit right there. And, you know, it's just about the fact that, well, if you manage to curl into a ball when you get to that loop-to-loop, and, you know, you just go way too far, and you might able to, you know, touch the wall, and then send you to the bottomless pit. I mean, yeah, because of how the fact that that's what I mean when it comes to the forms of Sonic Advance 2 as a bottomless pit every game, which that might be seems to be obvious at that point, which even then though that might be a little bit of a questionable design choices when it comes to level layouts like this. But again, I think the best strategy you can able to think of in terms of likely just have a much more easier experience with this zone in particular, I really recommend the double jump, because that way it allows you to able to actually just to get ourselves a really good bounce height, assuming if you're able to actually make it to higher places and all that stuff. So I believe in that now, if I were you, just go for the double jump, because that will help. Especially noticeable how the fact that if you almost low on lives on all that stuff though, because I remember back in the day as a kid, whenever I first got the game, this is a zone I did manage to stuck on for the longest time. Although, mind you, I did have an easier time in this zone as Tails and Cream the Rapid. But as for Sonic on the other hand though, assuming if I didn't actually unlock the third playable character, which we'll point things out whenever we get into it, that I just got rage quit by that zone, and wow, that was really close. In fact, I'm almost gonna get hit by those spikes over there, but thankfully, with that double jump in mind, that way I can able to actually just to get enough height, or enough, you know, jump height if I was gonna reach to higher places and all that stuff. And also, ever since in Oil Ocean Zone from Sonic 2 is the fact that there's gonna be a lot of fans that will blow you back or something. I should probably point things out right away though, is the fact that this game has a lot of emphasis on grinding this time around. Like, normally it does have grind rails in the forms of Sonic Advance 1, but only use it briefly, which even then though, because it only uses is for both Sonic and Amy. But for the rest of the characters now, they can now able to utilize rail grinding, so... And now folks, we come to the most annoying freaking boss in the whole entire game. Alright, Dr. Eggman, let's go in. Hold on a minute. That's Knuckles. At first I thought that Dr. Eggman is gonna able to kidnap Knuckles, or should I say, I probably should have saved Knuckles from Dr. Eggman. Oh my goodness gracious. Is it just me, or is it incredibly different to you? Oh boy, I can see how this is going. Anyway though, some people seem to say this is easily the most annoying boss in the game, because usually, relatively speaking, they just really despise this boss fight so much. Basically, and myself included. Because basically, all you have to do is just basically, we need to, like, catch up to Knuckles / Eggman's cockpit, and basically, all you have to do is just basically, you have to jump on the cockpit. And, Also, he does manage to have themselves 2 different contraptions up his sleeve, like the actual, the laser beam, which is actually pretty easy to take down, and also this freaking hand. Like, basically, if you think the hand itself won't be that much of a problem to deal with, but I swear, the actual hit detection, and even especially noticeable about the fact that you have to be very careful with the actual hand, because as you can see, sometimes he always does some sort of like a smack attack. And it doesn't matter how many rings you get, but I swear, the worst offender about this boss fight is the fact that, well, actually there's 2 problems I have with this fight. For one, if the hand managed to smack you at this very specific point, doesn't matter how many rings you get, it instantly kills you if you manage to able to get slapped by that specific long stretchable hand or extendable hand, which I swear that makes a lot of players rage quit and they'll get lives drained very quickly. And also, the second problem I have with this fight, and easily the most annoying thing about this boss, I swear, if you try to hit the Eggman/Knuckles' cockpit, if you try to able to jump from left or right, it does not damage it. I have to able to actually jump on specifically onto the cockpit, and that's how you're able to deal with damage. So, yeah, definitely the most annoying fight in the game, which I can honestly why that most people seem to really got rage and overly mad about this fight, but luckily, I managed it down on the first attempt. You know, the strangest thing just happened. You let Eggman dupe you again? Leave me alone. Whatever. See ya, Knuckles. Hey! Ugh, I won't let Eggman get away with this. So now we're going to be playing as the 3rd unlockable character, which appears to be Knuckles the Echidna. Even though it's kind of a shame that in order to able to unlock Knuckles is that you have to go through the forms of the actual Sky Canyon zone, as you guys can clearly tell. So speaking of Knuckles, here it is right here. And by the way, one thing I forgot to mention is the fact that if you manage to able to press the right directional pad at the right time of that particular countdown, basically you get yourselves a nice boost start, which that was before when Sonic in the Secret Rings was a thing, that if you time your control kind of boost starts at the right time, you get yourselves a big burst of speed if you manage to time it right. So, that seems worth noting for, especially noticeable how the fact that, well, I bet that some players managed to already done that before, so at least I haven't exactly done that on my own time, so, but thankfully I managed to come across to that. So anyways, how it works for Knuckles in Sonic Advance 2, basically he plays out exactly like how it did in the forms of Sonic Advance 1. He can still glide, and he can still climb on walls if you manage to find some specific secrets here and there. To be more specifically with those special stage rings, as you can see. And to top it off is the fact that out of all of the actual playable characters we're able to actually show off so far, Knuckles does take a while to able to actually get his boost state. And because of that though, because he's more likely a powerhouse, or maybe it's because, unlike in any other characters, that you get yourselves an instant boost state if depending on time, but usually Knuckles takes a while to able to get himself his boost state, so something's worth mentioning. So here we go folks, on to the 6th zone in Sonic Advance 2. Now this is easily without doubt one of my favorite zones in the game, because alongside with Music Plant Zone, this zone is very unique as well. Because obviously this takes place in a cyberspace, some sort of a computer technology kind of world. Which I will say, it looks super impressive. And even especially noticeable with those springs right there, they're all digitized and all that stuff though, which I will say, they look very cool looking. Even with those spikes, as you can see, sometimes it just decides to go flicker and all that jazz, which I will say, it does look very unique in design. Which I will say, the only thing I give the credits to when it comes to Sonic Advance 2 is the actual themes is super unique and interesting, to say the least. Because we've never actually come across into those specific themes like this from any other Sonic games before. Unlike the new Super Mario Bros. Series, they managed to reuse the exact same world themes over and over again during the actual releases. Like, come on, new Super Mario Bros., just bring something new to the table, like new themes, like techno, well, technology world, or specifically musical instruments kind of world. I mean, just bring those. But they don't. Anyway, I have no idea why I just managed to complain about that, because of the lack of originality and stuff like that from those new Super Mario Bros. Series, of course. So, but I digress. Something's worth mentioning, if you're trying to able to pull off a trick, or even a double jump with Knuckles, if you manage to perform a double jump with Knuckles, sometimes the actual momentum does feel a little bit slightly different than the forms of how it does it for Sonic, Cream, and Tails, essentially. Because if you manage to perform a Shuriken kind of double jump, and basically that he does manage to able to move, it doesn't move that much forward compared to the forms of how it does it for Sonic, Tails, and Cream, but usually, relatively speaking, that's all I can really muster. And also, if you're trying to able to perform some sort of a trick, whenever you're just trying to able to, well, I'll show you what I mean whenever we get onto the next act in Techno Base Act 2, which, by the way, the 6th zone is called Techno Base, by the way, so because of that, though, it's all about technology and stuff, so, and also I really love the music as well, it's so atmospheric, too. Even though, at one point, whenever we get onto Sonic Events 3, one of those zones we're able to actually bring back, which is, of course, a cyberspace kind of zone. But I will say, I honestly kind of prefer Techno Base a bit more over the likes of, well, the ones in Sonic Events 3, because we'll talk more about it until whenever we get into it next year, as I said this before, but not now, though, because we're still playing Sonic Events 2, after all. Alright, onwards to Special Stage 6, where obviously the stages themselves, or even the special stages for that matter, can get a lot more aggressively harder. Mainly it's because of how the fact that, well, you have to rely on the actual ring chain reactions, so because of that though, if you follow those footsteps correctly, then you would be able to actually get yourselves a massive amount of rings if you're trying to be more precise with it. So, I blame on the keyboard for that matter though, because sometimes my, footing in specifically in the special stages can sometimes feel a bit stiff in some areas, but luckily it's not the game's fault, it's just I'm blaming on the emulator keyboard for that matter. So, but either way though, that's all I can really think about this, and despite the fact, however though, we've only got about 2 chaos symbols left, even though as you can tell from the actual world map, from you know, why I did this off screen, I have to able to actually collect those chaos symbols again, but this time with Knuckles, because, well, again, we'll talk more about the forms of that specific chaos symbol awards, if I manage to able to discuss onto that until we get to the extra video, because, usually, relatively speaking, we haven't got that long left. I mean, aside from the fact that we actually on, the 6th zone so far, and especially noticeable because of how the fact that, well, relatively speaking, we've almost gone towards the end of this particular Let's Play, even though there might be some, annoying parts to it now, like, you know, it's just a lot of emphasis on bottomless pits. Oh, by the way, the Techno Base Zone does have a lot of bottomless pits, so we obviously need to watch out for those, so yeah, just keep an eye out, especially because if you screw up at least a few times worth noting for, then you're gonna get lives drained, so you get the idea of how this goes. And obviously it's bad enough about the fact that whenever I was gonna do this off screen, from Tails, Cream, and even Sonic essentially, I have to able to actually grab those chaos symbols again, which again, it's just a lot of busy work that's been going on. And I just kind of wish if the chaos emerald system / the special stage system doesn't feel nearly as complicated, whilst in this, it can be a little bit of a traumatizingly tedious, and even especially noticeable, it's like a real, well, time-consuming the process. Anyways, here's Knuckles' up animation. It looks like he's about to be prepared for, you know, basic punches for participating in boxing matches or anything like that. Which obviously will make it true until Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games came around. Well, that was usually in the forms of, usually in the future. And by the way, if you manage to pull off the actual, some sort of like a mid-air dash from as Knuckles, basically he does like some sort of like, he just managed to pull off his fist up, but then basically, after when you land on the ground, basically he'll turn into a ball for a few seconds notice. And basically, that's the only thing I can obviously try to describe about it. I have no idea why I'm truly describing about that right about now, but anyway. Also, we got these very familiar triangular trampolines ever since in Metropolis Zone from Sonic the Hedgehog 2. So, something's worth mentioning for that particular reference. Also, I really loved about the fact that, usually relatively speaking, one thing I should probably mention about this too is that much like in Sonic Advance 1, every time whenever you get to the next act in the exact same zone, they obviously got themselves a different soundtracks, all things considered. Which, you know, kind of like how it did in the forms of most other 2D Sonic games every now and then, ever since in Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles. And especially noticeable with Sonic 3D Flicky's Island, and heck, even with the forms of Sonic Pocket Adventure, Sonic Advance, and so on and so forth. Well, the only time exception is, of course, Sonic Rush. Well, aside from if you, depending on what playable characters you're going to be using, like only 2 playable characters specifically. Whilst in Sonic Rush Adventure, though, that I'm pretty sure that it might return back to its, you know, 2 different soundtracks department. I'm not exactly 100% sure, just because it has been a long while since I actually played some Sonic Rush stuff. One thing I should probably mention is that if you get into the goal, you can able to actually press the left directional pad until you're able to actually stop yourself, and that way, if you, depending on what color panels you're going to be entering into, you get yourselves bonus points in the process, which I'll discuss more about it until maybe in the next video, because for now, here we go on to the 6th boss fight, which appears to be Egg Go Round. And I will have to mention right away, this is my second least favorite boss in the game. There's nothing bad or anything, it's just this kind of frustrates me, especially noticeable back in the day, that all you have to do is basically we have to get a lot of emphasis on these 2 colored platforms. Like, one is the gray platforms, which if Eggman decides to able to make them all red, basically the gray ones can able to spin those platforms around, and if the gold platforms manage to able to get red lights involved, these spikes will poke out. So definitely, in my honest opinion, it's not one of my favorite bosses, but usually because it's kind of frustrates me, especially I remember back in the day as a kid, that I just got super frustrated with this boss fight back in the day, especially because I swear, the most annoying part about this fight is these very annoying projectiles, which they obviously, he just managed to shoot 3 of them at the time. And also, not to mention, they always shoot wherever you go, and it's just annoying fight. And by the way, one thing I should probably forgot to mention is that the 5th boss fight's name is called Egg Saucer, which, it's one pointing out. So, I'm afraid to tell you for this point, guys, although despite the fact this boss fight ends super quickly like that, so even then I managed a successful attempt, or the 2nd attempt I should say. So, we got the endings up here, I'm afraid, guys, so join me next time on Let's Play Sonic Advance 2, is that Sonic will able to go onto the 7th zone in this game, which appears to be Egg Utopia Zone, and eventually we'll get ourselves the 7th and the final Chaos Emerald. So I'll see you guys until on Tuesday. Later, fellas.